All right. Hamish, no pants on.
바지 안 입고 있냐고 물어보네요 사람들이.
Oh god.
오준다 바지 입고 있다.
Those are short.
Monka TOS.
There are some existing known issues still. The UI issue related to damage to health on assault rifles is inaccurate on Stadia. Every other platform is okay.
아직 버거들이 남아
Healing
있는
College
거.
Technology Laboratory being blocked. We know about that.
감사합니다. 어서 오세요.
Pony Island progression blockers.
Pony
we're
Island.
looking into those as well. Get to the bottom of what happened.
The M1A nerf. I do want to point out that it wasn't on purpose. Eternally to not make that mistake again.
Or start with like how did we arrive here? Months ago, M1A was buffed. But as we all know, the meta at the time was Eagle Bearer, a bigger beast on the prowl, and it was Eagle Bearer, and it overshadowed everything else. Unfortunately, ironically, we're once again in that kind of a situation. The M1A issue was already there. It was overtuned to begin with. Became the new meta because we retired Eagle Bear. A pandemic occurred, is working in isolation that was meant to be to test and then validate, make sure and see like, okay, is this where we see it? Unfortunately, that never happened because we're working under somewhat extraordinary circumstances, a result of bad process. We never intended for the M1A to receive this significant of a nerf. It's not fun. We know it's not fun to log in and then see your build look the way it did. We, on behalf of myself and everyone on the team, like we apologize for this.
Yeah,
let's just say what's going to happen within the next.
So what we're going to do as a first step is we are going to revert the nerf of the M1A and the Baker's Dozen. For PvP, we will still do an adjustment. That is going to be 20% nerf.
나 멀미 날 것.
So in terms of timing, we are obviously looking into what we can do as soon as possible. So
What about other guns?
So if everything else is, for all intents and purposes, tuned accurately, but the M1A is tuned at 120% of what it should be, we can't simply go and just raise everything else to match that. It's a complex system. So the M1A will be addressed. Other guns that are underperforming, gear sets in particular, we have a plan. We will be buffing things. It's
버프 엄청 강조하네.
Conversation in the community right now about NPC difficulty and that sort of thing.
We've done as many of the, let's say, easy fixes. Now we're getting into NPC and AI behavior. In terms of the NPCs, what they do and how they behave and how they interact with each other are still not necessarily ideal. There are lots of opinions. We're trying to appeal both to players who want a more casual experience, but also we'd be kidding ourselves if we said our game is only about loot and gear. It's not. It's a shooter. Simply making gear ultra powerful is going to ruin the experience for a quite significant part of our player that likes a challenge and wants to be get sweaty and test themselves against really challenging content. We're going to continue to work at it in order to try to make everyone as happy as possible.
he is looking at containers and all that purple loot stuff and all that might be changing, and is June. So in June we're looking at a larger balance pass.
The send-off.
But as we all know, in TU8 or Warlords of New York, we removed holstered talents from the game. It unfortunately redesigned the send-off to have a huge range increase. You can shot or slugs, at the same time. And that's what we chose to replace rooted with. Craft the send-off and have it roll with perfectly rooted. That was never intended. We had to fix it. It was a bug.
아직 온다 올라온다. 가운데 보세요 가운데.
I have no idea.
We talked about this the other day.
That's not a bear.
Chris!
매일매일 예상 밖이다 진짜.